For as long as fans could remember, Nick Newman had squared off against liars, schemers, and Genoa City nightmares. But facing down Matt Clark again felt different. It felt like a door, long nailed shut, had been ripped open, letting out the cold breath of a past nobody wanted revived. And yet, here Matt was, standing in front of Nick in the dim, echoing hallway of Newman Tower, smiling the smile of a man who believed he had nothing left to lose. Nick's jaw tightened. "You really came back," he said, his voice low, steady, carrying years of history between the syllables. Matt Clark tilted his head. "You make it sound like a crime," he replied, the corners of his mouth twitching with amusement. "I like to think of it as unfinished business." Nick stepped forward, closing the space between them with a confidence that didn't quite hide the tensions simmering beneath. "You don't get to come into my life again, not after everything, not after who you hurt." The words were gravel, dragged through memories he'd tried hard to bury. But Matt's eyes gleamed with the dangerous charm that had always cloaked his darker impulses. "Relax, Nicholas. I'm not here to resurrect the past. I'm here because the future is about to get interesting." In the fictional world of the young and the restless, the moment was explosive, the kind that sparks debates on message boards and sends fans reeling with suspicion and excitement. But what viewers didn't know was that behind the scenes, Joshua Morrow, the man who breathed life into Nick Newman, was dealing with something even more gripping, something real. Joshua had just wrapped a pivotal scene when his phone started buzzing with unusual persistence. The crew was resetting lights, actors were chatting with scripts in hand, and a production assistant rushed by carrying a box labeled Matt Clark Props, Do Not Touch. Joshua checked the number, unknown. He almost let it go to voicemail, but why did his stomach twist? He stepped away toward a quiet corner of the soundstage, pressing the phone to his ear. "Joshua Morrow," he answered. There was a hollow silence, then a voice tense, familiar, and breathless. "Josh, it's Eric." "Eric Breeden." Joshua straightened instinctively. "Hey, what's up?" "You need to be smart," Eric said without preamble. "Someone out there is stirring the pot. I just got a warning, not about the show, but about you." The words hit him harder than any plot twist he'd played on screen. "Me? What are you talking about?" Eric exhaled, the kind of controlled breath that came from years of handling high-stakes soap-set chaos and real-life storms alike. "There's been chatter. Someone been contacting people, journalists, fans, maybe even crew, claiming you're involved in something that could damage your reputation." Joshua blinked. "That makes no sense." "It doesn't have to," Eric said. "All it takes is one person spreading garbage to create a mess." Joshua rubbed the back of his neck. As Nick Newman, he spent countless episodes taking punches, wrestling villains, protecting his family from the latest Genoa City threat. But in real life, he was a dad, a husband, a quiet guy who loved sports, guitars, and laughing with castmates between takes. The idea that someone was targeting him, it felt surreal. "Just be smart," Eric repeated. "Don't react publicly, don't feed anything, keep your head clear." Joshua thanked him, hung up, and slid the phone into his pocket. The world of daytime television was full of scripted danger, vendettas, and returning villains, but off camera. Things were supposed to be normal, safe, predictable. And yet something in Eric's tone had rattled him more than he wanted to admit. Back in front of the cameras, Joshua slipped instinctively back into Nick Newman's skin, the character he'd embodied for 3 decades. But when he locked eyes with Trevor St. John, who was temporarily stepping in as Matt Clark for a flashback arc, something clicked. It was Trevor looking at him. It was Matt. "Nick," Matt murmured from behind the cell bars of the set's temporary holding room. "You think you know how this ends, but your greatest mistakes are the ones you haven't made yet." Nick's pulse quickened. The script didn't call for that line. He stepped closer. That wasn't in the scene. Matt smirked. Maybe it should have been. The director called cut, and Trevor immediately broke character, apologizing with a laugh. "Sorry, man, I got a little too into it." But Joshua's mind was somewhere else. Too many lines were blurring today, fiction bleeding into reality, reality creeping into fiction. And then, as he walked off the set, a notification pinged his phone. A message from an anonymous account. "Stop digging, or the next headline won't be about Nick Newman, it'll be about you." Joshua froze. The timing was too sharp, too coordinated. Whoever this was, they knew that Eric had warned him. They were watching. And suddenly, the storyline taking shape on Young and Restless, about Nick confronting Matt, about old enemies resurfacing, didn't feel like entertainment. It felt like a mirror. A warning. That night, alone in his trailer, Joshua reread the message. He could have ignored it, written it off as a troll seeking attention. But something in his gut told him this was different. He opened a new message and fired off a text to the one person who could turn paranoia into strategy. "Eric, we need to talk tomorrow. Something going on." He set the phone down and looked at his reflection in the mirror. For years, he'd portrayed strength, fury, heartbreak, loyalty, all through the lens of Nick Newman's charisma and moral compass. But now he felt something deeper, rawer, more personal. Nick Newman wasn't the only one staring down a threat. Joshua Morrow was, too. And just like his on-screen alter ego, he wasn't about to back down. Not when the stakes were real. Not when someone wanted silence. Not when the message Eric had given him echoed louder than any scripted line. Be smart. The next morning, both Nick Newman and Joshua Morrow would step into battles, one fictional, one frighteningly real, each requiring nerve, clarity, and a refusal to be intimidated.